Welcome to Bite Size PL, professional learning you can consume during lunch or on a dog walk or while you get food ready for that final summer barbecue. Our goal is to provide meaningful, engaging, and brief conversations for educators. I'm Jenette, and this is my co-host, Kate.
Oh, we're so excited to be back. This is going to be so fun. We've got a lot of fun episodes planned for this season.
Yes, new school year, new season. We are excited, and we're starting today with a conversation about getting back to school, back to work, and all of the preparation, both physical, intellectual, and emotional, that goes along with that. And our first guest for this season is Carly Maloney. She's a teacher at Viewmont High School. She teaches English and psychology. She coaches soccer. She advises sophomore officers and a lot of other things.
She does it all.
This year she mentors as well. So
welcome.
I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
Oh, this is so fun. We're here interviewing Carly in her classroom, which is darling, by the way. It's just amazing. There's so much to look at. It's so fun. And I love schools in the summertime. I've been telling people that, when you're a kid, you think, oh, summers are so long. I'm going to come back to the fourth grade a whole new person. And I feel like you think that as a teacher too. Like, oh, I'm going to come back a whole new teacher. And then you realize, oh, it's only 9 weeks.
Yes. I do feel like you have to rejuvenate in some way. And I think that eventually, I think after you take a month off of binging Netflix or whatever it is that you need to do, for me this summer, it was spending time with my kids. I just had a brand new baby in May, and that makes it my third. And so trips to the park, to Lagoon, whatever it is, it's like, okay, I need that type of break. But usually about July and August, I'm itching to get back into my classroom space.
Yeah. And I love the vibe of a school in the summer. Teachers are in shorts, they have their kids, they're taking it easy, they're chatting in the office. It's just good vibes to kind of come back. So I know, Carly, that you've been thinking about your classroom and, what you needed to do in the summer and kind of had a list of things to do. So what are you kind of doing, this week or the past little while in the summer to kind of help you feel prepped and ready to go?
In June and July, I'm already coming in on Mondays with the other advisors as we're starting to get our officers back into the school. But I don't usually walk into my classroom till about mid to end of July because I like to have a break from it. But then as I'm going in, I feel like there is a need to change up the physical space a little bit. In order to revitalize me, I like to revitalize the space that I will be working in and that my students will be learning in. And so I remember when I first started teaching at Viewmont, I had a few administrators and coworkers teasing me because they said that I was one of the few secondary teachers they knew who was obsessed with bulletin boards. I loved bulletin boards. Jenette can probably attest. My first classroom, I'd have a bulletin board per book that I taught. And for me, it was just because I wanted students to feel visually invited into the space, and I wanted it to be warm and welcoming. I remember, confession, one of my first years, getting permission, to go into the building and do the bulletin boards around the school. I wanted to cover all of them. I'm pretty sure Jason Smith was like, did you go cover all of these boards? And I was like, I sure did. And he's like, it does look great, but I didn't know you were going to do that. I feel like adding color to the walls helps students to feel invited into a space. And with decorating my classroom, I think it's less about bulletin boards and all the things you can stick on your wall. I believe that when you're coming into a new prep or been asked to try a new instructional strategy, having a space in your room dedicated to that can help. So the last couple of years when I tried standards-based grading, I implemented standards-based grading. Stranger Things was really big on TV, and my students were obsessed with it. And so I had a Stranger Things area of my room that was talking about staying out of the upside down of their learning and mastering their standards. And I'm sure I don't have copyright to that, but it was neat to be able to incorporate their interests, and we could defeat the Demogorgon with a disclosure game at the beginning of the year. And so any area of my room, I try to have a purpose behind it. And kind of the last one I thought of is when I picked up AP Psychology, I wanted to destigmatize mental illness and talking about mental illness. And so I saw a sign that was called Grow Through What You Go Through. And so one of the areas of my room I dedicated to mental health awareness, but I wanted to have like plants and nature growing through different stages. And then I added these little mini succulents to the tables and the desks because I wanted students to be reminded constantly to have a growth mindset, but also that it's okay to get help and to be resilient through mental health challenges. I don't know if that's what you're looking for, but that's kind of what I was thinking of.
No, I love that so much.
Yeah, and you're coming in with kind of a thematic view of, and it started with the bulletin boards about the novels you were teaching, but we're actually sitting in your room and we're looking around and I'm seeing the bulletin board with the Grow Through What You Go Through, and it really is a real positive energy there. Give yourself a break, mentally, it sounds like, and don't be so hard on yourself. How about yourself as an educator? Are there certain things goals that you set? I say that because I know one of my first part of August activities was to come into my classroom. I had always handwritten notes over the course of the year of things I wanted to improve for the next year, and I can remember that first week of August I would come in and sit and type up those goals and revisit and kind of set some goals for myself as a professional, as a teacher. So is that part of your process as well?
I love that. So one of the things that I like to do is pull out my pacing guide from the year before, and I'll do something probably not as well as you did, Jenette, but I'll take like little notes of, well, this activity went okay, or scratch this, bad idea, it did not go well. And so as I'm going back through and pacing for the next year, there's something about like taking the calendar out and putting the A and B days on and seeing when the breaks will be, which are very needed, right? But being able to take notes on general notes on how I'm going to pace through that year. I think that's an important part of the process. So it's not just like about the physical space, but then once I have that, it's nice to have a map for the year, a general map of where I'm going, so that if things are getting overwhelming, I can pull that calendar out and be like, 1 week until break, and here's how it's going so far.
Yeah, I can remember getting a plan book and putting the dates at the top of the page and turning the page and being in April. Oh, spring break.
Yes. We're in August.
Look how long it is.
Spring break.
Yes, it's here.
Absolutely.
Well, we know that when teachers are officially back for the contract week, that it is right before school. It is a busy week. That prep week does really fill out fast. So what are kind of your priorities for that prep week?
I was thinking, it really sounds cliche, but I think making sure that you have those opening activities, the get to know yous and icebreakers, making sure you have a way to do classroom norms and expectations with students. And so some of the things that I do, I always like to start with some sort of get to know you or icebreaker, which I know we learned in our university ed courses, but I think those are vital. They allow me to get to know students' names and their interests. They also allow students to get to know each other, and it can become a community in your room. I think sometimes we're so quick to jump into content, especially as an AP teacher. Like there's never enough time, right, to cover all the content. But I find myself much happier if I've spent the first week at least building those relationships and going over those procedures. And so some of the ways that I do that, I've always had a board in my room. I'm going to put it up, actually. I do it as part of that week of meetings, but I like to have black butcher paper around a sign that just goes with my class norms, and I leave it black and blank on purpose so that the first week students can take gold and silver Sharpies and sign their names around that black paper. It might seem silly, but I feel like it's like a visual of a contract they make when they walk into my room, that they're going to agree to the class community norms. And so that first week of meetings, I've got to make sure I've got that activity ready to go. I have other icebreakers that I love. One I do recently is I've numbered Jenga blocks. I got this idea from something I'll share at the end of the podcast, but I like to number Jenga blocks get kids ready with that activity, and they'll be in tables. And as they pull a Jenga block off to play, that number goes with an icebreaker question. So they can play Jenga, they can get to know each other. So I would say that that week of meetings, if I can have a couple of activities of icebreakers to go at the beginning and a way that I'm going to go over the class norms, I don't have to have the rest planned. And I think that's reassuring for new teachers that change preps. It's okay to have a general layout of where you're going, but you don't need the day by day.
It's too many days.
No, too many days to do that.
How about emotionally? You're very busy, obviously. You love it all. But how do you prepare emotionally for the year?
I think for me, even opening up the roles on Encore and seeing some of those faces of kids that are going to come in, kids you might have had before, brand new kids, that I get excited emotionally to know that I get to create new relationships or foster old relationships. So it might seem silly, but even just like printing out my seating charts with pictures and being like, okay, like these are kids that I get to be with and spend time with, that helps me emotionally as well. But I think for sure that first week back, it's full of meetings. It's okay to take some time for you where you're going to focus on a couple of goals like you mentioned, but then being able to step away and be with your family and know that that's okay. Like you need to be rejuvenated emotionally. You don't need to get it all done that week.
It was so great to hear from Carly Maloney about prepping for school. We now have the great chance to hear from Magali Cromar, an elementary teacher at Meadowbrooke. And she teaches 5th grade normally, but this year's doing a 5th-6th split. Is that correct?
It's going to be my first 5th-6th split. So
that's awesome. We've been talking about coming back to school. Our first question is, what do you do, this week in the summer or even in the past to kind of help you prepare? What do you like to do?
Okay, so this year is a little bit different because I did have to switch classrooms at the end of the year. So I actually, the last day of school, moved all of my stuff out into the new portable. So for me, I've had to go in here and there for a few hours to set up my new classroom, which just helps me feel like I can come back to school. I don't know how most people are, but I need to feel like my space is like organized and tidy for me to even begin to think about anything else really. I need to have order in my space. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing. I really need my space to be organized for me to be able to feel like I can get into like school mode when it's like time.
Well, and I bet you're grateful to the end of year you that packed everything up before you left, because I saw a teacher TikTok just the other day where this teacher was like, end of year me just threw all this stuff in a closet and just wanted to go home, and I resent him. And now that I'm back, and I thought that is so true, because sometimes you're like, I'll deal with this in August, and then you get back and you're like, I should have dealt with this.
I know. And coming in was a little crazy. I just really packed everything up. I had my husband come in the last day of school, and I'm like, just help me move all of these things into the portable, and then I'll feel good about it, which, is a good thing as well, because I don't know if you guys saw, but Meadowbrooke flooded. So it was really nice.
I didn't see that. Oh my gosh.
It was very
running down
bad.
The halls.
It was
books floating.
2 inches. It was bad. So I was very grateful that I did move all my stuff out when I did, or else they would have just been really wet. So.
Oh my gosh.
And thankfully, the new teacher that's moving into my old room had moved her stuff in. Mm-hmm. So, we were good on that front, but some people were not as lucky. And so it was really sad. But
well, kind of to that, teachers, when we officially come back and start that first week of contract week, super busy with lots of things going on, PL, staff meetings, all of that stuff. What do you prioritize to make sure, okay, this is a non-negotiable this week, it has to be done so that I can be ready?
Well, definitely the first week of school. I need to have the whole week planned, what we're doing, all of the copies made for what we're doing. That has to be, has to happen. Really getting together with my team to plan our first week, right? Like, what are we going to do? Very detailed as well. I find that if you're not, then sometimes you're sitting there like, okay, now what do I do? I've had those times before. You know, what I love about teaching is that you can perfect your craft every year. And I'm good about making little notes in my planner to be like, okay, that did not work last year, so make sure that you do something different. I'll give myself notes. So it's good to look back at my planner from last year and say, okay, that didn't work. I need to fix that. So for sure, getting together with my team, planning out our first week, and having all of the copies made that we need for the week. That's pretty much what's a given. Like, it has to happen. And this year is going to be a little bit challenging because I not only need to get together with the 5th grade team, we need to come together with a 6th grade team as well. So it's going to be 5th and 6th getting together to kind of plan out what's going to happen. So
maybe this is a good time to transition to talking about emotional preparation since you're taking on a new content this year. How do you transition yourself emotionally from summer Magali to school teacher?
Yeah, I've gotten pretty good at like the self-care. And I got the opportunity to travel a lot this year, so I really feel like I got good use of my summer. So I am actually super excited, and I volunteered kind of to take on the 5th, 6th, so it's something that I'm excited about. I did my student teaching in 6th grade, so I feel like I'm a little bit prepared. And so, like I said, I've gotten good at the self-care, so I knew that I was going to do a lot of traveling. I've, done just some fun little things. That really helps me doing the things that I like to do. If I'm tired, I take a nap. Like, I just go take a nap for a couple hours, and that really does help me. Or I watch a show that I want. Like, I don't feel guilt at all about doing those things.
No, and that is one of the great things about being a teacher is you do have those weeks that you get to make choices. You can come into school for a couple of hours if you want to, because that will make you feel better, but you can stay home and binge something great or work on a project or just, lay around.
And that's what I've really been doing. I've gone into the school a couple hours. I kind of give myself a list. Okay, for today I'm going to finish this in my room. And then I go home. And I do have to say I have older kids as well, so that does help to be able to do the things that I want to do. And I know that not everybody has that luxury. It will come, I promise. But it is nice that I can do that. If I want to take a nap, I do. If I want to watch a show, I do.
As a mother of a 4-year-old, I appreciate that. It will come.
It will come, I promise. And then you will miss the little age. I promise you will miss it too, because I do miss them being little. But it is nice that I have a lot of, time on my own.
Choices.
Yeah, I can make. I want to go take a nap, I do. Or if I want to go up to the lake, I do. I can do pretty much those things, and that's what helps me prepare emotionally to be in the thick of it during the year.
Well, I love one of the things that you said that I kind of want to highlight is if you plan your planning time, you're more effective, which seems weird. Like, I'm going to plan my planning time.
Yeah.
But that is so true. If you look at the week, that week you're back, right? Yeah. That essential, kids come, this is the 11th hour, and say, okay, here are the hours they have. Because then you're not stuck doing what you said, kind of being like, well, wait, what's next? Because there's so many things. And if you have to pick from those things in the moment, you might kind of forget those priority things of, okay, I want to make sure I get these copies done. That's going to be much better than whatever I'm going to get stuck doing, that will distract me. So I think that's huge. And that would help me. I need to start... Well, I try, right? Every morning I sit down and I'm like...
She makes a list. I've seen it.
And I want to say, I haven't perfected that either. It sounds really nice to be able to have at least a couple weeks planned ahead. Usually, at least I'm a week planned, but I have tried to do like the 2 weeks being planned, and I find that whenever I do that, it really does help to just feel like I can come into work and not be stressed. I'm not perfect at it. There have been days where I'm, scrambling in the morning. So
we like to end each episode with a gift that we would like to give teachers because we wish we could give them a gift. So do you have a gift for teachers that's making you happy?
I thought of a restaurant that I love.
Oh, I'm
And I just found it, and I've literally been thinking about it since we went. It's called Sabor Latino, and they have 2 locations. There's one on North Temple and one in like Salt Lake, like on State Street. They have like just Latin American food, and they have like Venezuelan food, Colombian food, and Mexican food. And it's so delicious. It's really good. It's owned by a woman, and she's there, like, making the stuff. It's super authentic. It's so delicious. It was really good.
Wonderful.
I thought of a resource that I feel like really changed my teaching. So a couple years back, a very good friend and coworker of mine named Kristen Van Brunt, she got a group of us together in the summer. We did some summer PL, and it was all around the book Adrenaline Rush by John Meehan. I don't know if you've heard of John Meehan, but he has a podcast called Talk to Me in the Car, so it's MEE, which is part of his last name. And he also has a book called Adrenaline Rush. And basically what it goes over is student engagement activities, gamifying education. And when we read this book together, we came up with some of the ideas that we could implement that next school year. So I would strongly recommend the book. That's where I got the Jenga idea from. He also has fantastic ideas for, rather than doing like a breakout room or an escape room, breaking into content areas. It totally changed the way I looked at teaching. And one of the ones that I wanted to share that I thought was cool, because I know some teachers are teaching online through Davis Connect, or they may be teaching online for other means. But when we went remote, and when we were adjusting to a hybrid schedule with the pandemic, one of the suggestions that he gave was to do a digital icebreaker. And so he had the students design, in his case, he did like a skateboard, and they could stick on that Google Doc stickers of things that they enjoyed on their skateboard. So I chose a Hydro Flask that year because students were bringing Hydro Flask to school. They had their stickers on it, and it was just an opportunity for students to get into this Google Doc with a Hydro Flask there and go and copy and paste stickers on of things that they loved. And it allowed us to still have that classroom community even though we were partially online that year. So John Meehan, Adrenaline Rush, or Talk to Me in the Car is the podcast.
Wonderful. Thank you. As always, thanks to our producer, Tom, for making us sound so good. This season, we are also putting video of our interviews on a YouTube channel. Check the show notes for that link. Thanks for joining us. Please like and subscribe and share the podcast with others. See you at school.